They say the cold numbs you. But that morning, it didn't. Not even close. The cold found every unzipped corner of my coat, crawled beneath my scarf, and settled deep into the space behind my ribs. The space that hadn't felt warm since Claire died. The world around me was still and white, as if grief had frozen the city along with me. And then I saw her. A puppy. Small, shivering, sitting neatly on the bench at the school bus stop, like she was waiting for someone. She wasn't moving, not barking, just waiting. She was wrapped in a red scarf, child-sized, frayed at the edges, and tied around her neck was a note. I had to squint to read it. Her name is Lily. She's gentle. Please take care of her. My breath fogged as I crouched. Hey there, girl. She looked up at me, not with fear, with hope. That's what undid me. I called the school, told them I'd be late. Then I scooped her up, scarf and all, and carried her through the snow like something sacred. She didn't resist, just leaned into me, her tiny body trembling against my chest. She smelled faintly of cinnamon and dust. In the car, I wrapped her in an old flannel blanket I kept for emergencies and laid her on the passenger seat. Her ribs showed through her fur. I grabbed a granola bar from my glove compartment. She inhaled it in 2 bites, then gave me the kind of look that said, "Is there more?" At home, I filled a bowl with warm chicken broth and rice. She ate like she hadn't seen food in days, licking the bowl until it skittered across the tile. Afterward, she walked over, curled up against my feet, and sighed, long, deep, and content. For a moment, the house didn't feel so empty. The next morning, I debated leaving her behind, but she looked at me with those amber eyes, and I just couldn't. So I brought her to school, tucked in the passenger seat once again. When we walked into the classroom, 22 fifth grade heads turned at once. Whoa, she's cute. Is that a wolf? Can we pet her? I introduced her as Lily, explained that she needed kindness, just like people do. What I didn't expect was what happened next. She walked right over to Jamie. Jamie hadn't spoken a single word in class all year. Diagnosed with selective mutism, he communicated through nods, gestures, and an occasional whispered yes if he felt safe enough. But Lily? She sat beside him like he was the only person in the room, rested her head gently on his shoe. Jamie didn't flinch. By the end of the day, I glanced over to see him reading aloud to her in a whisper. His voice soft and full of wonder did AT night. Lily followed me from room to room like a quiet shadow. She slept at the foot of the bed for 2 nights. Then she crept higher, until she was curled against my chest. A silent comfort against the ache that never really left. Claire would have loved her. She was the kind of person who said things like, "Some souls are sent here to heal others, not themselves." She would have said Lily was one of them. I started talking to Lily when the silence got too loud. About Claire. About the accident. About how sometimes I still set 2 mugs out without thinking, and Lily would tilt her head like she understood, like she was listening. One evening, I finally examined the scarf more closely. Faded red fleece. Threadbare. Tiny stitched initials in the corner. E.T. Eli Thomas. The quietest boy in my class. I'd never seen him speak unless asked a direct question. Always polite. Always tired. The kind of kid whose backpack is too big and whose eyes are too old. I kept Lily home the next day and asked Eli to stay after class. "Eli," I said gently, holding up the scarf, "is this yours?" He stared at it, then at me. His eyes filled so fast it startled me. "We had to move," he choked out. "No dogs allowed. Mom said no shelter. No time. She was mine. Since I was little. I couldn't let her go like trash. So I left her somewhere someone kind might find her." He wiped his nose on his sleeve. "Did it work?" I nodded. "Yeah, it worked. We met that Saturday in a park between his new apartment and my house. I brought Lily on a leash, though she didn't need one. She walked beside me like she trusted the direction I chose. As soon as Eli stepped into view, Lily froze. Then she ran. The leash slipped from my hand as she sprinted across the grass, barking. A single joyous sound. Eli knelt, and she hit him like a memory come alive. He wrapped his arms around her, buried his face in her fur, and whispered something I wasn't meant to hear. After a long silence, he looked at me. "I didn't give her up," he said softly. "I gave her a chance." Lily was changing things. Not just in my classroom, but in me. She sat beside crying kids until they calmed. She nudged open doors I hadn't realized I'd shut. My house started to look lived in again. Blankets mussed, toys scattered, paw prints by the back door. One night, I found myself humming while doing dishes. I stopped, startled. It had been a long time since I'd done that. A week later, the school counselor approached me. "Your dog, Lily, is remarkable. Have you considered therapy training?" I hadn't, but the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. She was already doing the work. She just needed the badge. So we started the process. And that's when the next chapter of her story, our story, really began. Therapy dog training didn't teach Lily much she didn't already know. It just gave her permission to do what came naturally. She learned how to stay calm under pressure, how to avoid sudden movements. But what they couldn't teach, what no school ever could, was the way she listened. Not with her ears, but with her whole being. We visited classrooms, group homes, clinics. I never had to direct her. She knew where to go. She gravitated toward the trembling hands, the hunched shoulders, the eyes that darted away. It was like she could see pain before it showed. Therapy dog training didn't teach Lily much she didn't already know. It just gave her permission to do what came naturally. She learned how to stay calm under pressure, how to avoid sudden movements. But what they couldn't teach, what no school ever could, was the way she listened. Not with her ears, but with her whole being. We visited classrooms, group homes, clinics. I never had to direct her. She knew where to go. She gravitated toward the trembling hands, the hunched shoulders, the eyes that darted away. It was like she could see pain before it showed. There was a boy at a residential home. We'll call him Marcus. 10 years old. Refused to be touched by anyone. Flinched when approached. Didn't speak much, if at all. When Lily entered the room, he sat rigid in the corner, watching her with wary eyes. She didn't approach. She didn't look directly at him. She just lay down in the center of the room, halfway between him and the others, and closed her eyes. 10 minutes passed, then 15, and then slowly Marcus stood. Step by step, he walked to her. He didn't pet her. He just sat beside her, close but not touching. Eventually, his hand hovered near her back, then rested gently there. He exhaled. Later, a counselor whispered, "That's the first time he's touched anyone in months." At the pediatric cancer ward, we met Amira, 9 years old. Bright eyes, no hair. She called her chemo machines the monsters, and named them all after fairy tale villains. Lily patted in, tail low, eyes gentle. Amira lit up instantly. "Is she soft?" she asked. I nodded. "Can she fight monsters?" Lily walked over and set her head on Amira's lap. "She doesn't have to fight them," Amira whispered. "She makes them smaller." From then on, Lily was scheduled to visit every Tuesday. And every Tuesday, Amira drew her new pictures. One was of Lily with a golden sword, slaying a dragon. But my favorite was a stick figure of Amira, bald and smiling, sitting with Lily under a tree. The caption read, "No monsters today." Not all our visits were with children. One spring, we went to a memory care facility. Lily had barely entered when an elderly man approached her, squinting hard. "Daisy," he asked. I opened my mouth to explain, but Lily walked up to him, pressed her head into his thigh, and stayed there. The man knelt. He wasn't steady, but Lily supported him. "I knew you'd come back," he whispered. "Knew you'd find me." They sat like that for a while. An old man and a not-so-old dog wrapped in a memory they both believed in. Sometimes, I think love doesn't need logic. I didn't realize I was changing until someone pointed it out. "You're smiling more," my colleague Anna told me during lunch one day. "And you don't flinch when the bell rings." I laughed, but she wasn't joking. It was true. Grief had been a quiet roommate, occupying all the corners of my house, all the pauses in my speech. But Lily didn't just fill the space, she transformed it. I talked about Claire more, not just how she died, but how she lived. I started taking photos again, playing guitar, making real meals. One day, I found myself setting out 2 mugs again, not out of habit, but hope. Eli visited when he could. His mom picked him up after school on Fridays and let him spend an hour with Lily at the park. He never stayed long, but every time he left, he whispered the same thing. "Thanks for giving her what I couldn't." One day, I corrected him gently. "You gave her more than I ever could. You gave her a beginning." There was a night, a stormy one, when the power went out. Wind howled through the cracks. Rain slapped the windows. The kind of night that makes you feel very small. I was sitting on the floor with a flashlight, heart pounding from the sudden dark. And Lily? She crawled into my lap, rested her chin on my chest, and gave the softest sigh. That sound, the weight of trust, the release of tension, was more comforting than any light. Sometimes, healing doesn't come with fireworks. Sometimes, it's just a sigh in the dark. Years passed. The kids in my class changed. But Lily remained the same steady presence. A little slower, sure. A little grayer around the muzzle. But still watching. Still waiting for the ones who needed her. One crisp morning, just before Christmas break, I took her back to the place I'd found her. The bus stop. Same old wooden bench. Same crunch of snow underfoot. Same silence hanging in the air. She sat beside me, calm and still. I looked at her and whispered, "Do you remember?" Her ears perked. She looked at me the same way she had that first day. Not with fear, but hope. And I realized, Lily had waited for someone. Not just anyone. She'd waited for me. People always ask me, "Did you rescue her?" And I smile, because the truth is simpler. She rescued me. Love like this deserves to be shared.